I read how many books in September? Hi friends, welcome back to Pages and Chaos. So in the month of September, I actually read 8 books, which I am very shocked that I read and finished that many books, considering September is back to work, back to school, my classes, everything. It was just pure chaos. I mean, I don't know how I did it, but you know what? I did it and it was very fun because I was also participating in Series September. So we'll start with my only non-series book for September, and that was my booktuber recommendation from Books, Ink, and Paper, and that was The Invisible Life of Addie Larue. I gave this 4.5 stars. I loved this book, and the fact that it took me so long to pick up, I don't know why, and I'm kicking myself in the butt for not picking this up sooner. Everything about this book was perfect. There were times that I felt like the book became very descriptive, and I was almost ready to kind of be like, I don't know if this is a 5-star. I don't even know if this is a 4.5 star, maybe like a 4-star. But you know what? When I got to the end, every single descriptive scene had such a purpose, and it was so beautifully done and intertwined into every page of this book. I absolutely loved this book. I did settle on the 4.5 stars though, just because I felt like maybe 1 or 2 scenes could have had the same impact, but just a little less descriptive. But still, I loved this. Next up was Misfortune Cookie, and this was book 9 in the Noodle Shop Mystery. This is the buddy read that we were doing in the Comfy Cozy Book Club. I actually gave this one 4 stars, which is a little bit of a change from what I've been giving the other books in this series. I think I liked a little bit more the fact that it wasn't taking place in the China village where they live. It was actually taking place in California, because Lana and her sister go visit their aunt and winds up having to help her out when a situation happens over in California. There was also a lot of bonding between Lana and her sisters that I just loved, actually getting to see them together and not so like petty fighting. So I really just enjoyed the overall story of this and seeing their relationship grow, as well as getting to learn some more about Lana's family, specifically something about her aunt. I just really enjoyed this one. And I also enjoyed that her family and her village, and you know, her boyfriend, the detective Trudeau, they just weren't like the main focus, and that everything was happening in a completely different setting. I think that's why I enjoyed it so much more. So I forgot to mention that that book was actually for the Moody and Dark prompt, because the cover has skulls on it. So I think, yeah, Moody and Dark, it definitely fits. So next up was the 7th volume in the Lore Olympus graphic novel series that I have been reading, and this actually fit the blue tones prompt for Series September, and I just am enjoying this series so much. There are 2 more books, book 8, and I think book 9 is coming out in October. So I cannot wait to pick up those books and see how this is all going to end and what's going to happen. So I gave this one 4 stars. And again, we're just following Hades and Persephone and this unique take on their story. I absolutely think that this is such a great graphic novel series. There are a few little trigger warnings, so I definitely suggest reading those before you pick up this series, but I just love seeing this take on Hades and Persephone. Next up was Rebel Witch. This was the 2nd book in the Crimson Moth duology, and I picked this book for the full colors on the cover. I absolutely loved this book as well. I mean, this was just such a fun duology. So I gave this one 4 stars, and this was continuing to follow Rue and her situation as a Crimson Moth, who is a vigilante witch trying to hide out from the witch hunters, who, because all of the witches have been expelled after an uprising. Really don't want to go too much into this because this is the 2nd book in the series and I don't want to ruin or spoil anything for you, but I gave this one 4 stars. Next up was Fearless. I finally finished the last book in the series, although there is another novella that I do have to pick up, but as far as the main books in the series, I finished, and yeah, yay for finishing a series. But I picked up Fearless for the beautiful cover because each one of these books, I felt like these covers were just gorgeous. I absolutely love this. I gave this book 5 stars. These had mixed reviews. A lot of people felt like this was not a very good conclusion. I, on the other hand, absolutely love this. This series for me was strong all the way through. And I absolutely loved the ending to Peyton's story and everybody else involved. Again, 3rd book in a series, don't want to give too much away, but I really enjoyed this and I gave this 5 stars. Next up was the Cozy Vibes prompt, and that was a Fellowship of Bakers and Magic. I have been seeing this in all of the cozy vibes, TikToks, and social media posts and things like that. So I picked up the first 2 books in the series because 1, I just love the covers, but 2, they just sound so adorable. I gave this one 3.5 stars. High 3.5 stars. I really enjoyed this. It was such an adorable read. However, I felt like if they just made it a little bit longer and added a few details, it definitely would have reached that 4 stars for me. This is about Arletta, who is human and she loves to bake, but because she has no magical powers, she has to work twice as hard, and people, you know, and other magical creatures and people look down upon her. But one day she winds up getting an invitation to the Langheim Baking Battle, which is a baking competition. And even though there's no official rules about humans not really partaking and being able to participate, there's always a way that humans wind up not making it through. So she's doubting her abilities. She's wondering why she's even there. And she gets invited and escorted by Theo, who is this elf or elvish woodland elf. That's what they describe him as. And I just thought this was adorable to see their romance. I love watching her friendships. So she makes friends with this creature. I forget exactly what the creature was called, but like Jez is her name, and she was just like this grumpy old, like, oh my goodness, like doesn't want to interact with anybody. And then by the end, seeing the friendship grow, I mean, I just thought this was so adorable and so cozy. Like I said, I wanted just a little bit more from it, and I felt like it would have been perfect. But overall, definitely enjoyable read, and I definitely will be continuing with the rest of the series. And next up was the last book in the Ember and the Ashes series, and that is A Sky Beyond the Storm. I picked this one for the bold type because clearly there's a lot of bold in the title and the author's name. 5 stars, guys. I loved this series. I am so sad that the series ended. Like, if I could read this series again from the beginning for the first time and like wipe my memories of it, I would. There's a lot of battle and fighting scenes in this book, so if that's something that doesn't interest you or doesn't really grasp your attention, then this might not be a 5-star for you. But despite that, for me, because I like a lot of action, but I also don't necessarily vibe with like all of the descriptions of the battle scenes, but everything else that happened where we find out about Helene, and we find out about the Commandant and Leia, sorry, I always mispronounce her name, and just everybody else, and like all the stories and how they come together. I think this was just such a perfect ending. Now, technically, there is a duology that is based off of this series years later. Don't want to give away too much of who is involved, but I definitely will be picking that up as well, because we are continuing, so Sarah and Krista are continuing with the month of October with that, just to keep the series alive and going. And the last book was The Enchanted Greenhouse, and I used this for the forest or nature prompt because hello, greenhouse, nature, plants, yeah. But this is the second book. Even though it is a standalone, it is the second book in the Spell Shop series. I gave this 5 stars. I absolutely love this book. And as somebody who wishes she could have her own greenhouse and literally would love to have floor to ceiling plants all throughout my house, Nugget will not allow that, by the way. I love this. It has a winged cat. It has sentient plants, specifically a sentient rose plant that is responsible for trying to help bring these greenhouses back to life that are failing. So this is about Larue, who is the person who actually created Kaz in the spell shop, the sentient spider plant, who I absolutely loved Kaz. Now Kaz is not in here, but Larue winds up getting punished for doing that because she was not supposed to do that. She's not a sorcerer, and only sorcerers were supposed to use magic. So this was before the revolution that happened in the spell shop. And she gets turned into a statue, but one day she wakes up freezing cold in these greenhouses, and she meets the grumpy gardener Yarrow, and finds out all about what's happening on this garden, why she was woken up, and what has happened since she was turned into a statue, which I believe was quite a while before she actually woke up. I don't remember exactly how long it was, but I know it was a while. I just love this. The rose plant that talks throughout this, I mean, she was just like so funny. Annoying at times, but you know what? In the best way. And I just love seeing Yarrow warm up to Larue and actually like open up to her. Like, this was just such a cozy and amazing fantasy. And I believe there is a third book coming out in this series, so I cannot wait for that. I'm a little shocked that I read as many as I did. I did get a few bingos by reading these books. I did not get a full board this year, but that's okay, because you know what? I knocked a few books off my series. Well, yes, a lot of these were just started this year. I still say it counts. And I finished 2 series, so I'm happy about that. Well, those are all the books that I read in September. Have you read any of these books? What do you think? Do any of these books intrigue you? I'd love to know, because you know what? I love hearing your thoughts. You should know that by now. So if you just want to let me know that you were here and support me, but you're a little too shy to comment, then just leave me a stack of books in the comments to represent series that you have to read, want to read, unfinished, finished, whatever it may be. But just put a stack of books in the comments. And that's all I have for now. Bye.